Yo, what is up, Bitcoiners? Welcome back to the Build a Mind podcast. I am your host, TrevorBello, and today I have another collaboration episode for you. Something that I've been looking forward to with a buddy of mine who you probably already know if you've been following in on our spaces or just kind of following along on the Bitcoin or the Build a Mind X channel. I have today joining me on the podcast for a collaboration rip, My2Sats. My2Sats is the host of the Home Mining podcast by Solo Satoshi, and he is also the host of the My2Sats podcast. Now, what I love most about 2Sats is he is a fellow learner. He is somebody who has dove down the rabbit hole and doesn't know exactly where he's going to end up on the other side, but is really excited about the Bitcoin network. He is a Bitcoin maximalist through and through. We talk a little bit about our journeys into Bitcoin. We talk about the shit coining. We talk about Bitcoin in general. We talk about home mining. We talk about the BitAxe. We talk about heat reuse. There's a lot of interweaving themes here on this episode, but it's really just a fun conversation between two friends. Me and 2Sats, we've been doing these spaces every other week, and if you haven't caught on to those, if you haven't caught those at all, I definitely recommend you go do that, especially if you're curious about home mining or heat reuse, because those are the two things that we really get jazzed up about. And it's an opportunity for you to have a conversation with us, to ask us questions, and to really just spitball ideas, thoughts, all that good stuff. So today is not that kind of podcast. We're not spitballing here. We're just having a good conversation between me and 2Sats. And I, really highly recommend you go follow him. So go follow My2Sats Pod. Go follow the Home Mining podcast by Solo Satoshi. Definitely support my boy 2Sats. Definitely support Solo Satoshi as well. I love everything that they are doing over there. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this podcast today. Please, in the show note in the show notes, you'll be able to find everything 2Sats as well. But please definitely go out there and like, subscribe, comment, leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. I really want to push this message forward. I want to get this podcast out there more and more. And your guys' comments, your guys' ratings really help me spread this message further and farther. So with that, I've got a couple of things I need to tell you about, and then we're going to dive into the podcast with 2Sats.
Welcome to the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the Mastermind Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
All right, you guys, I made it super easy. Go to the QR code there at the bottom of the screen. Go to the link in the show notes to join the Mastermind community. This is a community of like-minded and driven individuals who are all trying to secure the Bitcoin network and decentralize Bitcoin's hash rate by building out their own mining operations. Now, whether you're a small guy like myself or you're an industrial miner and want to secure that next megawatt, definitely join the Mastermind Club, because we are here for you. This is a community where we all come together and help build upon the work of others and help to push each other forward in that journey. So definitely highly recommend, and it's free for anyone to join. We have a Telegram community, and it's a really fun place for everyone to come and mind meld to get those ideas out there. So definitely do that. Link will be in the show notes. Now, the last thing I want to tell you guys about is an event that I am going to be going to in July, and I'm super excited about it. I'm very pumped. Now, I just got back from the Bitcoin 2025 conference, and I have to say, there's a lot to be left there's a lot to be desired when you go to these conferences. The national conference, oh yay, it's the national conference. But when you walk around, you go outside of the mining village, there's a lot of altcoin trash, shitcoinery that's happening. And it's something that as a Bitcoin maximalist, I'm really tired of seeing. They send me to these conferences and I'm just like, oh my gosh, can we get more signal and less noise? And so what I'm really excited about is Bitcoin Alaska. Now, Bitcoin Alaska is going to be held on July 5th and 6th in Juneau. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of satellite events that are completely family friendly and oriented specifically for families. So I highly recommend, if you guys have a family, you want to go see Alaska, you want to see some of the iconic beauty and nature that Alaska has, and you want to go hang out with some Bitcoiners, come to this event. The tickets are almost sold out for the whale passes and the VIPs, but I'm sure that the GA tickets are still there, and flights are getting a little expensive. So definitely get up there, get your tickets now. um, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. I guess I should probably share the link. So the link is rolling across the bottom of your screen now, bitcoinalaska.org. Head over to the website, take a look at it. Rick and Wade and Mel have been putting together this amazing conference. It's going to be pure signal, Bitcoin only, centered around Bitcoin and what the families Bitcoin and families. It's going to be, centered around mining and the state and what the state of Alaska can do. And I think that has downstream effects for other states as well. So definitely head over there, grab your tickets. Don't miss out. You're gonna FOMO from this one. It's gonna be a very, very high signal event, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, let's jump into the podcast with 2Sats.
And hooting and hollering. But now it's like, okay, well, it's like 12K higher than then. It's it's going to go higher. It's going to crash back down to 110K, and then it's going to do its thing again and keep going. So
yeah, it's funny because I got my father-in-law into Bitcoin a couple of years ago. When I got into Bitcoin, he was the only person that listened to me. And I remember we did that run up to 109, and then it started falling back down. And he's like, man, I don't know where it's going. Like, I don't know how to follow it. And because I'm like into mining and stuff like that, I understand a little bit, not to say that I know everything or know anything really, but I was like, yeah, I really think like the base case for like as far as it's going to go down is about 70K. And he's like, well, what makes you say that? And I was like, well, if you look at the global cost to produce a Bitcoin, it's about 75,000. So I don't think it's going below that, because then miners are just incentivized to turn off, which, has a bunch of different demand and supply demand heuristics. But literally, we watched it hit like $76,000, and then it popped right back up. And I was like, I was right. This is the only time I've ever been right.
yeah, that's interesting. I have two questions about that. But so are we going?
Yeah, no, we're recording. I
deal?
hit recording. We started. I figured I'd just hit the record
Just
button.
go for
So
it.
let's go for it.
All right, sounds good. So I have two questions about that then. One is, family are notoriously hard to convince. I've been harping on my family, mainly my dad, who taught me about investing growing up in the TradFi markets, and he just won't do it. Like, he's just so fucking stubborn, and he just won't do it. So, I'm curious, how did you go about having that conversation and actually convincing your father-in-law to be orange pill, to start dipping his toes in? And then B, and it's kind of an aside to that, is that, do you do TA? Do you look at a lot of different trading indicators or anything like that, or do you solely kind of focus on like the cost to produce a Bitcoin because you're so into the mining space?
Okay, so I'll go with the second question, the aside question first. I don't do TA. I'm more of a vibes kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, I was having this conversation with Bitstorian earlier today. A lot of my education is just like I read books, I listen to books, and I listen to podcasts. And then the way that I learn is I have to, like, the information has to be presented to me about 15 times before it sets in, and then I can start to like play with it, and that's when the real information starts to hit. So for me, I'm dense, dude. I'm like a stack of bricks. It's hard to get information across. It's hard to get points across. So I don't do TA. And as far as like the mining analytics, I pay attention a little bit. Like I do look at some charts every once in a while, but it's not like I'm focusing on those charts on a monthly, weekly basis. I just like, oh, I'm curious what it costs globally to manufacture one Bitcoin. Like, it kind of helps me when I'm thinking about where the price is going and where the price is at the current point. But to your question of like how I orange pilled my father-in-law, um, it's so I used to work for him. You know what I mean? I like when I was learning about construction, I was just riding around with him, working for him, and so for about 3.5 years, we just have like these deep conversations just about life and just like whatever we were thinking at the time. Because I'm a talker. I like to talk, and in 22, I started learning about Bitcoin. And so every time I'd learn something cool, I'd like immediately just like mansplain to him, and he'd sit there and be like, huh, that's interesting. Like, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about, but okay. And eventually enough of those conversations happened where he starts asking questions and he starts getting curious. And then it was like, well, I bought Bitcoin, you should buy it too. And it was when he was like, well, I've got nothing else to lose. Like it's what's it matter if I put $100 in this thing and it doesn't go anywhere, versus like if I put $100 in this thing and it appreciates 2 4 10x. And so he just he put some money into it and just left it there. And I kept talking about Bitcoin, kept explaining certain things that I was learning at the time. And it was during that run up from 17.5 to like 40,000. And when it did that, I mean, he put a small chunk of money, not like anything crazy, but he put a small chunk of money in there. And when it ran up, I mean, that's almost a 3x price increase in your Bitcoin price appreciation. And that was what clicked for him. He was like, holy crap, something's here. I don't know what this is, but something's here. And at that point, he was like, I know you're into mining. Like, I want to get a miner. Let's do this. And so we set up his mining shed. And at this point today, almost 2 years later, he's got 2 S19s running in there, ducted into his shed. So he heats his shed with it. And he's loving it. So every time Bitcoin goes up in price, he's like, oh, Trevor, the price is up. Have you seen it? And then the price goes down. He's like, oh yeah, I'm buying more Bitcoin. And now even it's gotten to the point where even my mother-in-law, who she was completely against it at the very beginning, like even my mother-in-law is talking about how they should sell their house and buy a bunch of Bitcoin, buy a bus, and just go wherever they want. So like now they're thinking about the downstream effects of what your life can look like when you actually have a sound, stable asset to store your value in.
Yeah, because what's funny about that is all that generation's ever known is inflation and devaluation of their time and energy and labor and their currency, right? So once this is in front of them and they see it, I mean, it's different if they buy in now at new all-time highs and then it's just downside for a little while, right? Or whatever, or a quick spike up and then downside. But getting in when they got in, it's very easy for them to see that the 2 to 3x there, and what a sound hard asset looks like and feels like to own. So that's really cool
Yeah.
and
And
exciting.
And I'd say from like your perspective, like this is the hardest thing that I see with like trying to orange pill people is everybody has their own perspectives, their own like ways of looking at things, and that's through their own experience, in life. And so nobody's coming and looking at Bitcoin from the same direction. We're all looking at it from a different place. And so when you tell your father about Bitcoin, you're like, "Hey dad, you should go buy this thing." And he's like, no, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's rat poison square, whatever he says. Um, he's saying that because he has a preconceived notion of what money is, and isn't willing or doesn't need to change that preconceived notion. I've had a couple of people where I've told them about Bitcoin, and I've told them in the most rational way that I can perceive, and until I'm blue in the face, and they still refuse to look at it more than what I've bought for them, because like there are some people where I'm like, okay, it's your birthday, here's 50,000 sats. Oh, it's Christmas, here's 50,000 sats. And I send people Bitcoin all the time, because I'm like, if you're going to get a present from me, it's going to be Bitcoin, because it's the best present I could ever give you. You may not understand it yet, but it is. And so what I've found is like the biggest thing you can do is, instead of speaking at people and trying to say, well, this is why you need Bitcoin, or this is what Bitcoin can do for you. It's more of a framing, like start to have the conversation of like, what is money? And that's one reason why I love Robert Breedlove's show, is like, what is money? Why is money why is it necessary for money to be a physical object? You know what I mean? And then start asking those questions and gauge their responses. I have my best friend's wife, so she would always argue with me, well, I can't take it to the grocery store. I can't go to the grocery store and spend money. And I would say, and I don't want to dox her. I'd be like, hey, what do you think about gold? Do you believe in gold's value proposition? And she would be like, well, yeah, I mean, it holds value. Gold is nice, people like it, people buy it for investments and stuff like that. I was like, would you own gold? And she's like, yeah, if I could afford it. I was like, okay, well, would you ever take your gold to a supermarket to trade for groceries? And she's like, well, no, that would be ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, well, like, that's like, from a fundamental perspective, that's what Bitcoin is. It's just a better, easier form of that. Instead of it having to be physical, it can be obfuscated into a non-physical thing, and it's just as secure, if not more secure, and it's even more scarce. So in that light, reframing her perspective on what money is, you can kind of start to embed the ideas of Bitcoin without making her feel overwhelmed, or even feeling like you're attacking her, because that's the number one thing, is like, when people feel like they're being attacked, they just immediately shut down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely, it's context dependent, right? And it's all about framing. I agree. It's funny, that's the exact same excuse or like apprehension that I got when I was talking with my dad was, well, I can't take it to Walmart and spend it, can I? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you wouldn't want to, but you could if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
There's bit refill, and there's, all sorts of various ways to get money onto prepaid, turn your Bitcoin into a prepaid Visa and then go and spend it at Walmart if that's what you so desire, right? But it's, trying to explain about the preservation of your purchasing power and your time and energy, right? It's as somebody that's in the markets, he does and should get that, but just on that, in that relationship in particular, he's just very afraid of new things. But I
Mm-hmm.
have clients that I work with in my Web2 business who have bought Bitcoin. They've been completely orange pilled, and it just started through conversation. I wasn't trying to, force the orange pill down their throat by any means, just explaining these things that you and I talk about. And then they start, one lady in particular, at first she was like, no, I don't care. I don't want anything to do with this. Like it's a new money and it's just so confusing, and it's digital and it's new. And now she owns more Bitcoin than I do.
Yeah.
Right. So like completely hardcore Bitcoiner. Now she's going around at 60 plus years old, orange pilling the local council,
Yeah.
pilling her family and stuff. And I'm like just blown away. Like when it takes a certain level of receptiveness, and just the right kind of person. Not everybody's a free thinking, open-minded individual, right? Some people just cling to what they know. So it's when the door opens, it's about helping that person step through it, but it's not about forcing people through it.
Well, and not everybody has like the need to figure that out. A lot of people, like, they've spent their life earning their money, and while it might not be what they wanted, like, they have enough to survive and they're making it by. And so the idea of diversifying into something like Bitcoin that seems risky from the outside is exactly that. It's risky. Like, why would I waste my money? It's like gambling, like, to them it seems like gambling. Like, why would I go waste my money on something that has no, like, I don't know if it's going to go up, whereas I know I have my money now and I can feed myself. So it's that perspective shift. And when they have like those experiences of watching their money be debased or devalued by 50, 100, 125%, then they're starting to think, okay, well, like, I need to put my value somewhere else. And so it's interesting, because I assume your dad is probably Gen X, the forgotten generation era, so they have literally watched their parents live that comfortable 50s 60s style lifestyle where they could just, one person would work, they could afford, a decent vacation a year, if not two, a nice house, couple of cars, decent lifestyle. And then they've watched it slowly just ramp up to where, a gallon of gas is $5, a gallon of milk is $4. You can't hardly afford a carton of eggs. Your rent is $1,800 a month if you're lucky, and so on and so forth, to the point where their lives are like you can't pay for it. And so they've literally watched this happen at the prime of their lives. It's not just like us where we were raised in that era of inflation. They literally watched from the era of like low inflation to high inflation. And so in my mind, it's like, can't you see that the value in our society is being completely eroded through this thing that we call money, and that therefore we need a better form of it? And that's what like rattles my brain. I'm like, how can you not understand this, because you've literally been living through it?
Yeah, it's very puzzling. From what I can tell, it's mostly that it's happened so slow. Well, it's happened fast when you zoom out from like a 50,000 foot view. But I guess when you're living through it, it's very like slow and meticulous and methodical. And it's just like it happens slow enough. And then the water has boiled, and then it's like, holy shit, I can't afford to live. That's when it kind of sinks in. But like, because you like growing up, that's largely what I heard is not in the early days, but like more so in the last, let's say 10 to 15 years, was like, oh, the steaks are more expensive and the grocery, oh, I'm getting, one or two bags at the grocery store and the cost has gone up 2x or 3x. That's what you hear from them, from your parents or from your grandparents. It's always, there's some level of discontent, but they don't really zero in on the problem of why that thing is happening in the world. And so therefore they don't necessarily think to search out the solution to that problem. Whereas you and I and our generation, I think, were just born looking so dead in the eyes of the problem that there's no other option but to find the solution. Because
Yeah, well,
we won't afford to live the life that our parents and their parents lived.
no, and this is perfect segue, because I want to kind of talk about like the origin stories of getting into Bitcoin. Um, you and I are very similar in age, and I remember 2008. I was a child during 2008, but like I don't remember like what was happening and why it was happening, but I do remember my parents acting a certain way. Like my father wasn't, or my stepdad at the time, he didn't get fired or anything like that, but like life got extremely hard. Like we ended up having to move out of the place that we were living, and like we had to move in with his parents, and like it was this huge phase shift in the way that our lives were carried out. And at the time, I mean, I'm like, I don't know, I was pretty young. I was like 12, you know what I mean? So like I'm pretty young, but I could feel this thing had changed. And then when you speed up to 2020, I'm in the workforce at this time. I'm, a young adult looking at, buying a home, looking at getting married, starting a family, building a life, and 2020 happens. And from 2020 to 2022, they printed like, I want to say it was like $4.8 trillion in 2 years. And then I remember like my coworkers at the time, who he understood money basically, you know what I mean? Like understood how value works. And he was like, yeah, like this is gonna cause a major phase shift in the way that our economy runs. Like businesses are gonna go under, like people are gonna suffer, like people are gonna die. And I was like, you're crazy, man. Like whatever, like you're insane. And then it started to happen. And I was like, holy crap, like there's something wrong here. And when I put those two major cataclysmic events together, I'm like, oh shit, the third one's on the horizon. Like they're going to keep happening faster and faster and faster. And there's gotta, like, if we don't find a way out, like this was my transition into finding Bitcoin. If we don't find a way out, we're going to be like, there's going to be two groups of people. There's going to be the haves and the have-nots. And if we don't find a way out, we're going to be the have-nots. And I didn't want that. I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for the people around me. And so for me, this led me down the road of trying to understand, how can I take a dollar that I've earned and make it earn more money for me? And, you know, my path, I've talked about it before. My path went from, I bought a home in 2020, trying to figure out how to invest my money in stocks, bonds, and real estate, to finding a podcast called The Millennial Investing Show, listening to the Bitcoin Fundamentals podcast, and going so hard right into Bitcoin that I've never looked back. And it has probably been the most rewarding, most challenging, and most exciting like thing I've done when it comes to earning and building value.
It feels different fundamentally than earning fiat, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if you get paid in Bitcoin ever for work that you do, but that feeling of getting sent sats, you know, straight to cold storage, straight to your self custody, it feels so different than taking a check to the bank and waiting a couple days for it to clear, and them asking you, you know, what is this money from, and you know, what are you taking it out for? All this stuff, like this slave mentality that is baked into the fiat world. It's
Tell
such
your
a different
masters what you
feeling.
want to do.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, so I think we're very similar, man, and you know, it's I think why we get on so well, and you know, might be different resources that did it for us, but I think like the line of thinking and the philosophy is very much the same. Yeah, for me, I was always kind of stumbling upon the same questions in my mind that you were early on, like because I was into finance for so long, even when I was like grade 9 or 10, I was reading, you know, these 2,000-page tomes about Marxism and, you know, just like communism and economics and all these different things, and learning about history and where things went wrong and what the world might be going towards. And, you know, that evolves and changes, and eventually you get called a conspiracy theorist. But all the way along, you're learning about the shortcomings of this world that we're in. And you're thinking about, well, how can we have a better future, a better life with this very limited, precious time that we have? And I got into stock investing, and I got into FIRE. I don't know if you know the FIRE movement, but the financial independence retire early movement with people like Mr. Money Mustache, who
Mm-hmm.
ironically I think hates Bitcoin or doesn't think very highly of it. But those were the first inklings for me of like, okay, 2008, things are going bad. Bank bailouts in Cyprus and Greece, and you know, in the U.S., banks collapsing and runs on the banks, and okay, this isn't good. And then you start to earn your own money, and you see that, you know, that value is going down constantly over time. And yeah, we're still living in first world countries. It's not like we're earning liras or you know, rupees or something, but it's
Yeah.
still the same problem. And so financial independence, retire early was, I think, like one of the big triggers for me earlier on growing up in my mid-teens, where I was like, I've seen what my father goes through. He works his ass off and he doesn't really have much of anything. I don't want to end up like that. Um, so what can I do differently? Because I know it's not going to work for 40 or 50 years and hoping that the government gives me enough to retire on.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no guarantee that when I get to that age and I've given my life away to a company for fiat, that fiat will be worth anything. B, that those assistance programs or retirement funds or social security or whatever it is in your country will even exist. They'll be bled out by what, and we're seeing it with the boomer generation. So that really led me to crypto, and then guilty shit coined a little bit.
Yeah.
Learned the hard way that this stuff is all malacca. It's all garbage. And then eventually stumbled into Bitcoin, and then just went whole hog, like learning and understanding like why this is the thing that is fundamentally going to reshape the world, has and is and going to continue to do so. And now that's just where I spend all my time. Bitcoin podcasting, Bitcoin home mining, all that kind of stuff. And I just try to do my best now to evangelize in a way to the shitcoiners, friends of mine, that do what you want to do, try to make your fast buck, have your, if you want to gamble, not financial advice, brothers, but do the research, take the time to really learn about Bitcoin, and you'll see why these are crypto and Bitcoin are two distinctly different things.
Yeah. The first piece of advice I remember reading was from a book called The Warren Buffett Way. I can't remember the author, but I'm pretty sure it's a quote from Warren Buffett. But he said, "Don't ever invest in something that you don't understand." And when I read that, I was investing my money in the S&P 500. I was investing my money in all kinds of different stocks. I was trying different like ways of investing in real estate without actually owning the real estate. And I didn't understand any of this, nothing. And what happened to me was I got married in 22, and I met this very charismatic guy named Gary. And I don't know if that's his real name or not, but super charismatic guy on my honeymoon. And he like gave me his phone number and stuff like that. And we were talking about like NFTs, because I was learning about NFTs and crypto at the time. Like it was very beginning stages for me. And so I was like, all the buzzwords, that they share around. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And he was telling me that he was getting in on the ground floor of this NFT. And long story short, I ended up buying this NFT. I spent, $600, $700 on this NFT at the time. And I was promised the moon. I was told, oh, it's going to moon. You're going to more than 14x your money. Like it's going to be great. And stupid, just ignorant, not understanding, how investing works. I was like, yeah, this is great. And my wife, the entire time, man, bless her heart, she was telling me, this is dumb. Don't do this. You're going to lose our money. Don't do this. And I was like, nah, babe, it's fine. I know what I'm doing. I understand this. I've looked into it. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't do any research. I just took what this guy showed me, the website that he showed me, and like, based on my very, very, very basic knowledge of what NFTs are, I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be awesome. And I lost that money. It was poof, gone. You know what I mean? And we're living paycheck to paycheck at the time. We'd bought our house. We just got married. We're broke. And so to spend $700 on something that we don't have, like that was aggravating to her. And it felt like a slash at my manhood, really, at the end of the day. And that was when that message, because I'd read the message before, don't invest in something that you don't understand. But that was when that message really sank in for me. Like it was like, okay, like what am I doing? How do I fix this? And I'm not sure like the exact timeline of when I found Preston Pish's podcast, but it was when I found his podcast and I started like understanding the fundamentals of Bitcoin from a pure like basic level. It was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Click. And it wasn't somebody trying to sell me something. It was just someone trying to show me how something works. And so that was that thing for me. It was like the NFT was my shitcoin journey. You know what I mean? And I immediately, like, when I started to understand Bitcoin, dove right in. But the funniest thing about this whole story is that my wife, for a year and a half, she was like, this is another one of those things that you got scammed on, and you're going to lose our money. And I tried to explain to her. I mean, obviously, I'd explained to her before. I was like, "No, babe, it's gonna work," and she still was like, "No, this is like, I don't know how to trust you on this. I don't know how to like accept this." And it wasn't until a year and a half later when we started seeing that appreciation, we started seeing what it could do for our lives, that she was like, "Okay, I don't understand this. I have no idea what this thing is. You won't shut up about it, but it is providing value to us. So whatever it is, just keep doing it." You know what I mean? She's like, I don't need to know everything. I just like, I trust you. And that was for me, like going from like feeling shame and feeling sadness around like losing money and her trusting me and not telling me not to do it, and me kind of ignoring her and thinking that she should trust me, to now she actually does trust me with the finances. Like that was a big moment for me, and probably one of the most rewarding things I've experienced when I've been in Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, man, for sure. It's yeah, women that don't take the time to understand it, but they just have like a bullshit detector kind of built in. It's like, what? You're spending $1,000 on a picture on the internet?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck. I realize how stupid that sounds. Thanks, babe. Like I didn't really buy a lot of shit coins. Like for like when I first got into all of this, like the main thing that I had was NFTs. I had a wicked NFT collection, and it was so stupid. Like when I remember trying to explain it to my best friend, and he was like, "Huh? You're, you're spending how much on JPEGs?" And I was like, "Yeah, but this is a rare trade, and this and that, like all the stupid stuff that you kind of buy into, right? This is
Yeah.
promised on the roadmap, and they're gonna do this, and this is where everything's going." And then just like having their skepticism just smack you in the face and like stop you cold, because like there's a certain point where you can't explain it logically. And that was, it's the same with my girl. It's like, what? Like, why would you spend thousands on these pictures?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really embarrassing. But as men, we're problem solvers. We think, well, it's going to go up, and I'm going to flip it for this, and I found this early, and I'm gonna put us ahead, and all of this stuff. But as you said, like if you don't fundamentally understand something, or if you really stop to think about it long enough, and it doesn't make enough consistent logical sense, you're probably just gambling and degenning. And it is what it is. You have to go through it. I mean, I remember getting scammed for I thought, oh, I'm so great, I've never been scammed, I've never lost money on a centralized exchange, no one's ever got me. Well, dude, I was in NFTs and I got somebody impersonated somebody else, a trusted team member, and they put the sort of the pressure on, like rush for a good deal, over the counter trade, right?
Mhm.
And I was about to start a work session, and I was like, well, I don't want to miss this deal, so I fired the money over and thought, okay, they're just going to transfer the NFTs over. See you later. There goes too much money. And that was one of the moments where I was like, this is just a bullshit casino. I'm not doing this anymore. And like you described feeling, I felt really stupid. Felt really, really embarrassed, felt really low, felt really stupid. Not even about the dollar amount, just that like you could be socially engineered so easily and so manipulated.
Yeah.
And
Especially when the
so
signs are there.
yeah, the signs are there and you just don't see them at the time. Even though, yeah, you know them, and like you could point them out to somebody else if you were helping a friend through something like that, you could stop them. But greed, ultimately, what that led me to realize was greed gets the best of you.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose. And so, Bitcoin, getting into Bitcoin and being Bitcoin only has really stopped the greed for me. It's just shifted the way that I see things. Like, is it great that we're at an all-time high as we speak right now in this conversation? Hell yeah, great. Do I feel a whole bunch of emotions about it like I used to? No, not really.
Mhm.
It's great, but it is the built-in function of the investment that we understand and made. And so this is it's just a matter of patience and time. This is just going to keep happening and happening and happening. And we just need to stay consistent and stack sats, and not be pulled in all these other directions. And if we had been doing that for years and years and years prior to this, we would be in a fundamentally much better off place than we are now, playing catch up.
Mhm.
But it's just about not being greedy, is the lesson that I learned. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful for the lessons, because I don't think if anyone had just told me, well, the toxic Bitcoin maxis told you. They told you in 2015. They told you in 2017. They told you in 2019, 2020. It's hard to listen. You're like, well,
Yeah.
these people are crazy, and maybe they're just biased and all these other things, but they were right. And so
And
now I see it.
and we're like, as human beings, I mean, we are still animalistic in nature, and we are very, very emotional creatures. I look at my 9-month-old son, and when he gets angry, because he doesn't have the ability to manage those emotions like an adult has. When he gets angry at something, I mean, this kid goes full face, red tomato, just screaming because like he's not getting something that he wants. Well, if you think about like every human deals with that. We just have a different way of like handling that emotion. Like it's the same emotion, you know? But for me, it's like when the price goes up and the price goes down, I'm no longer like really excited when the price goes up or really devastated when the price goes down, because understanding, this goes back to this idea of understanding. When you know what you hold, when you know from a fundamental perspective what it is that you're holding, the price almost doesn't matter because you know where it's going to go 10, 15, 20 years out. And that is like where I'm looking at it from, is like I'm not buying into Bitcoin or mining Bitcoin to get rich tomorrow. I'm buying into Bitcoin so that I don't get poor tomorrow. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
when Bitcoin goes up, I like the only emotion I feel is a little sadness, because I'm like, I'm losing out on the ability to buy sats. Oh, I should have bought more sats when it was at this price versus now when I, can't get as many sats. So like
It's
that's the emotion
twofold
that
though.
yeah.
It's a little bit of like, yeah, I knew
I was right.
I knew it. And then it's like instant regret, like, fuck, we were just at 78K. Like, why didn't I smash by, more? And like that's just the thing, but don't get kind of thrown around by our emotions, and in the long run we win. And you nailed it in that last little bit there, which is like time horizon is everything, man.
Yeah.
If you're looking at tomorrow, yeah, you're going to do dumb shit. You're going to be greedy. You're either going to trade on high leverage on the futures markets and get yourself wrecked. You're going to buy NFTs and altcoins, shit coins, meme coins. You're going to get wrecked. You're going to keep your money on a exchange that offers you yield on your Bitcoin. Where does the yield come from? You're the yield. Um, like
Yeah.
you're going to get wrecked, right? So it's about having the proper understanding of what you've invested your money and your time and energy in, and then how long you plan to hold this, right? This for you, you're probably thinking about your kid and your kids' kids, and that is a solid plan.
Yeah.
Even if you had just invested in the S&P 500 a long, long time ago, and you were thinking about another generation into the future, probably would have done pretty damn good. Now, Bitcoin is that on steroids, right? So if you're just thinking about, well, okay, in my lifetime, I'll probably enjoy some of this, but in the next, my kid's lifetime, their kid's lifetime, grandpa's going to be a fucking legend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to like these pieces of advice that I got at the very beginning of my journey, my financial independence journey. The other one that I heard, and I can't remember who said it, where I read it, where I heard it, but it was earn more than you spend. You know what I mean? And at that time in my life, I was spending way more than I was earning. And I was only doing it to keep up with, a lifestyle that I thought I needed. And that was before I got married. It was before we moved into a house together. And so it's like I had a different perspective. And I could see like I'll be completely transparent. From the time that I was 18 to the time that I was 25, I racked up $30,000 in credit card debt. You know what I mean? Just buying random stupid shit. Like I can't tell you the random stupid crap that I bought. I don't know what I bought. I don't even think I have any of it anymore. Like where'd it go? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that is a fundamental problem that we see in society today. And it has a lot of, stemming factors. Like it comes from the fact that we don't educate our youth about the fundamentals of money. It comes from the fact that credit card companies are extremely predatory. It comes from the fact that as a young person, you are predisposed to having these preconceived notions of who you are and what money is and how value is created. And so you think that you can just spend whatever you have, versus like understanding that life is not all about like having the nice car or having the big house. It's more about like what you provide to people, the people around you, versus like what you can give them physically. And so for me, it was a couple of these different different things melded together that shape the way that I look at finances, the way that I look at saving. And then when you throw Bitcoin into that mix, it's like it lights a fire under your ass because you're like, holy crap, I can actually save for that theoretical pictured future. And I actually see it coming in versus like when I was on that debt spiral, I was just getting further and further into debt. Whereas now it's like, yeah, I'm still climbing out of that debt hole, but I'm going up, not going down.
Yeah, and I want to touch on or add to what you said about people's lack of understanding of money. One of the things is that I find very prevalent is because you sense, whether you know it or not, but you sense that like the money is valueless or like trending towards valueless. You spend it as quick as it comes in so that you can live in the moment and enjoy now. Um, and that's like a poison in our society and in our upbringing. And obviously it comes from fundamentally one, not understanding money, but two, like the money is that way. Like it does. If you just stick it under your mattress or in your bank account and wait, you're going to have less purchasing power. So you may as well spend it now while you have it and enjoy the fleeting moment. And that is a very problematic way to go about living in the world. And but it's built into the very centralized, structure of our world, right? It's, the cost of everything goes up 2, 3, 4x, or 20, 30, 40%, let's say, or whatever, and your salary does not go up that much. It never does, right? So you're fundamentally just on this hamster wheel that you can't get off of. So why not live for today? Whereas when you make the shift to Bitcoin, you understand, well, I have a hard asset now, hard money that's not going to be able to be devalued in the same way. So let me delay gratification for something more meaningful, more powerful, a brighter future later on, as opposed to just living for the moment. So that's been a huge fundamental shift for me, and I think probably anyone who gets into Bitcoin.
Yeah, and to your point, and kind of to tell a story to build off of this is, so I have a younger sister-in-law, and she's getting married, not anytime soon, but they're engaged, and they are very deep into the EDM music scene. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy going to see music festivals and whatnot. I think it can be a lot of fun, but the fact is that, and they're not the only ones. This is they're part of the generation that does this. They buy their tickets to these festivals, and these festival tickets are like $300 a piece. You know what I mean? So for two of them, they're spending $600, and that doesn't include camping and food and like merch and whatever.
Yep.
They're buying all this stuff on credit. They have like down payment plans or whatever you get for these conferences, and they're constantly broke. They're constantly broke. They're constantly like, oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. But they're going to these shows, and they're like, well, I want to have a good time, I want to experience life, I want to do all these things. And for me, it's like really sad to watch this happen, because how do you say like, oh, that's fucking stupid, like you shouldn't be spending your money on these experiences when they're like just trying to have a good time. But also it's like, you should spend your money, because you spend your time for your money. You trade your time for your money. Your time is your most valuable thing. You trade that for money, and now you're spending your money to go out and have a good time, but you have no money to like actually survive and to thrive. And so it's this like weird cascading effect where, they're constantly doing these things and then constantly going further into debt. And then, they can't do the things, but they want to do the things. So they find a different way to, finance it and then go do the thing. And then they're in further in debt. And
Yeah.
by the time they look out, they're, $100,000 in the hole, and they don't know how they're going to get out of it. And this is an entire generation.
And they're paying 25, 30% interest on that credit card debt for something that they did 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And they're just getting buried. No, I mean, I know a lot of people like that as well. Eventually you just can't socialize with that because it drives you nuts. It's like, yeah, like I understand what you're saying. You don't want to evangelize or like condemn them or anything, but like it is fundamentally very, very stupid. Like it is the definition of stupidity. And it's very painful, but I also understand where it comes from. Like we just talked about, right? Like that need to just enjoy the moment because tomorrow I might not have money or tomorrow's not promised, or I can just buy it now and pay it later. Um, that's a victimization that people are living through because of credit cards and um, all these things. Like, what was it? Some I don't know, DoorDash or something like that. They said you could pay for
Klarna.
your what's that?
It's DoorDash and Klarna. You can now pay for your burrito on financing.
Yeah, like fuck, like that is a sick world, bro. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember hearing that and thinking, if you need 4 payments to pay for a fucking $15 burrito, I mean, you have bigger problems. You should be
Well,
not
that and
eating.
they're door dashing it, which takes that $15 burrito and makes it a $40 burrito. You know,
It's
like
sick.
that's the thing that I don't understand is like, yeah, I get some people don't have vehicles. Like I get that, but they are prioritizing comfort at this point. They're prioritizing comfort over like financial independence. And that's really what it is. And it's really sad to see that because who the hell in their right mind is going to pay $40 for a $15 burrito and then finance it, like you said, and do it in 4 payments? It's
Well,
insane.
and they're poor at that point if they're doing that. And so why would you not be going to the store and buying 3 to 4 times the amount of food if you're, whatever it might be, 2 times the amount of food if you're selective, and cooking it at home, learning a skill, feeding yourself for longer so your money that you barely have goes further, as opposed to one meal. Yeah, these things like I'm not in the States, but or in North America. Well, I'm in Mexico, but um back home in Canada, like I have a friend that will, he's very hard on his money, and he will order, something from Uber Eats or whatever, and the meal itself is $10 or $15, and it by the time it gets there, it's like you said, like double that, and I'm like, you don't have the money to be for one meal, and it never has any food in his fridge
Yeah.
to cook, and I'm like, bro, like you should go to the grocery store, man. So, but it's yeah, you don't want to criticize people, especially people that you love. But at a certain point in time, you're also like, you are the people that need to have Bitcoin the most,
Mhm.
right? The people that don't have all this extra money, like you were talking earlier, like some people just don't have the need for Bitcoin. So why would they diversify? That's fair. If you've already made it in life and you don't want to, go off the beaten path and try something new and put yourself at risk by diversifying into Bitcoin, I, honestly, I'm not even going to fight you on that.
Mhm.
The people that I think need Bitcoin the most are the people living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that resist it the most, in my experience. It's like, well, I barely have any money, so
Can't spend it
why
on
can't
Bitcoin.
I can't spend it on Bitcoin. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you spend it on cigarettes and alcohol and weed and whatever else. So if you cut a little bit of that out and put it into Bitcoin now, your life, you can work towards a better job and a better lifestyle and let your money work for you instead of depreciate or be wasted on these bad habits. And in 5 years, you could wake up in the next bull run and your life would be fundamentally different and
Mhm.
better. But they resist it so hard.
Yeah, and this comes back to my point about comfort, like it is uncomfortable to look at your financial situation and see, like, put the numbers down on paper and see where you're spending your money and see what you're doing with your time. Instead of doom scrolling for 5 hours a day, you could take 2 of those hours and learn a new skill, another hour and learn about Bitcoin, and then you still have 2 hours that you could spend doing something productive. People don't want to do that. Most people would rather be comfortable and slowly, to the point of crabs boiling in water or whatever, is like they would like to just slowly like get fat and die, for lack of a better way of saying that. And I would agree with you. The people who need Bitcoin the most are this generation of kids who would rather spend their money on burritos from DoorDash, you know what I mean? Even though they have no food in their house. And it's really sad to see that. But what I try to do is, like, as the Bitcoiner in the room, when I'm having these conversations with people, instead of attacking, instead of saying, well, like, you need this, like, if you don't do this, like, you're gonna, because I've done this before, like, if you don't get Bitcoin, you're going to die, you know, or you're going to be poor, like, have fun staying poor. And they don't resonate with that, so therefore they put these walls up. Whereas, like, when they're complaining about life and about the fact that they can't afford anything, I just start to, like, subtly incept these ideas of, well, our money is broken, inflation is destroying our money. Like, the fact that the government can print money ad nauseum with a click of a mouse button is why our money's broken. And that's why you can't afford things in life. And then you're, you know, and it causes these slow cascading shifts in their perspective. It always goes back to perspective, you know, and once they start to see that, then they're more open-minded. I've only had this work so far. I've only had this work on like 3 people, but it's the slow inception of perspective changes that allows them to start to see Bitcoin for what it really is. And until they have a curiosity and they're willing to ask questions, they're not going to get into it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't use the have fun staying poor approach at all. It's so combative and
Toxic.
yeah, it's just a little degrading, and while it's, you know, it might be true at its heart, it's never, you're never going to convert people like that, and you're never really going to have an impact. And if your goal genuinely is from your heart and soul is to impact someone's life for the better, telling them to have fun staying poor is not going to be a good approach. And you know, I just had a client the other day, you know, a second one at this point, reach out from my Web2 business and say, hey, you know, you've talked about Bitcoin sporadically to me. You've never like explained it to me or like preached it at me, but like I've heard you talking about it. I see you posting about it all the time. I think it's time that I learn what the hell this thing is and what's going on here. Can you give me some resources? And this is, again, another person that's perfectly positioned to benefit from this. They're going into retirement age. They have a comfortable, good lifestyle with investments spread out in TradFi, which would be better probably off in Bitcoin, you know. But their mind opened itself after just seeing somebody talk about it enough, right? And then, oh, I heard about crypto on this podcast, and you know, and so those are the people, like you said, that have their own open mind and curiosity that you can actually make like a real impact on, and provide them with resources and yeah, like actually have an impact and a benefit with, than compared to just like trying to cram it down people's throats. So, you know, I agree with you.
Genuine curiosity, man. Like, I've had more productive conversations when someone is willing to ask questions about Bitcoin, and I'm just there to answer the questions that they have in the best way that I can. And if I don't have an answer, I tell them I don't know. I don't know
You're
what
the
the answer
Bitcoin
is.
guy. You're
Yeah.
the Bitcoin guy in your circle. And that's the best way. Like I try to be that, you know, I'm actually very selective about where I talk about it, like as well over time. Like I don't go posting it around, like I'm not posting it on Facebook or something, right?
Yeah.
But the people that interact with me all the time, they know I'm the Bitcoin guy, right? So they feel comfortable when they do get curious, they come right to me, right? You know, I'm the fitness guy, right? I'm the nutrition guy. So when they have fitness and nutrition questions, they come to me. It's no different with Bitcoin now. And so it's a more natural way to go about it. And ultimately, like to your point, just yields the best results. And I think another, you know, just to wrap this up is this topic is that you want the people that are not going to be perturbed when the price has volatility. And if you forced somebody into this, or you gave them advice that they weren't ready for, or you know, you tried to make this happen for them and they weren't genuinely curious or interested, but they just kind of begrudgingly did it, or you know, they didn't take the time to fully understand what they were doing, which to your earlier point, don't invest in something you can't understand. When the price goes down, they're going to hate you. and they're gonna come for you, and they're going to feel like you misled them or you didn't warn them or whatever. And that can be very harmful. That can destroy relationships, friendships, everything else, right? If somebody comes to you and they have a fundamental like plan, like they're thinking about 10 to 15 years out, they're not going to be perturbed if they bought a little high, a little low, a little in the middle, and the price goes down. If they understand the asset that they're investing in and their needs and their own plan, then you're going to be a help to them. You're going to be a hero to them. You're going to be, a good guy. But again, not that we're giving financial advice out here to anybody, but you're giving information, right? And letting people make their decision. So it's about the people that come to you in the second scenario. They're not going to be perturbed when the price goes down. They're actually going to see it, like you talked about earlier. It's an opportunity to stack more sats and then benefit from more price appreciation over their own personal time horizon. So those are the people that are going to appreciate it most, as opposed to get all bent out of shape when, like, because Bitcoin is volatile. Bitcoin goes down 20, 30%, sometimes more in the bear markets, right? So you don't want to be getting people into these situations where they're stressed out that their US dollar value has gone down.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said there. How are we looking on time?
I'm all good. I've got nothing but time today.
Okay, cool. Same here. So we could do it Joe Rogan style and just rip for as long as we want. I'm curious to get into a little bit of your story with the home mining pod and how you got involved with Matt and Hunter over there at Solo Satoshi, because I met those dudes last year in Bitcoin Nashville, and absolutely incredible guys. I love what they're doing. I love what they stand for. And every conversation I've ever had with the guys, I'm just like, I like you guys even more. I vibe with you. I think you're awesome dudes. So I know why I am, trying to help them out as much as possible. I know why I'm like on board with Solo Satoshi. But you like started a podcast with them. Like the home mining podcast is like sponsored by them, like not sponsored, but like created in co-part by them. So like what is your involvement with Solo Satoshi, Matt and Hunter, and how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I have two Bitcoin podcasts. The My2Sats show, which is this episode is going to be on the My2Sats show. And at the start, the second interview in, I reached out to the Solo Satoshi X page and got a hold of Matt. And I was just curious to learn about Bitcoin mining and what they were doing. And I saw them at that time very early on as kind of the leaders in the space in terms of selling bitaxes. And so that's who I wanted to speak to. I always want to speak to the experts, the interesting cats with the cool stories and the experiences. And so the second person I ever spoke with on the My2Sats show was Matt. And he was in his truck, like driving like somewhere, I don't know, to a site or back from work, and it was raining, and he was pulling off on the side of the road to have an interview. And I was like, man, this guy's a cool cat. Like he's dedicated, like, very selfless with his time, like just a genuinely good dude. And at the end of the episode, he asked me, hey, we really want to create a podcast, and you're already good at what you do, and which I really didn't feel that way at the time. I was very, very raw and new at this, but I just knew I wanted to start talking to people about Bitcoin, really. So he said, we want to start a podcast. We don't have the time. We think you'd be a great person for that. We'll set you up, and you can make the whole mining podcast by Solo Satoshi. Let's bring education to the people. And that's where that was born. So I've been doing that for a number of months now, since early this year, and just having a hell of a good time talking to industry experts, home miners, heat punks, people tinkering with bitaxes, people mining wild sats like Saz mining, like just a whole bunch of really interesting people who are really just kind of genuinely there, I feel like, for the right reasons. And I just love all of their stories. And they all seem to like each other, which is so rare in the Bitcoin space. You do get a lot of infighting, and we have seen that in BitX in the last month or so. Some people starting to go at each other, but in general, everybody has just like nothing but good things to say about each other, and they're all there to innovate and push this space further ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm not sure exactly how I want to take this, but to the point of like Matt and Hunter and wanting to educate people, is like I feel like that's part of their core ethos behind Solo Satoshi. I know that Matt, when he first got his first bid axe, like he paid well over, like I want to say like $400 or $500 for the device, and he immediately thought like I can do this better. And there's been a lot of people calling them out, saying that they're charging way too much for these devices and that they're price gouging and that they're making the market. And like I fundamentally disagree with these takes, because Matt and Hunter have worked day in, day out, like sleepless nights, long days, just to bring a product to the market that is cost effective. And when you think about like how these devices are made, how they're manufactured, how they're brought to, from a Bitmain S21 or S19 full unit to a individual bidaxe, like there's a lot of different people putting their hands on that device to make that happen. And they've really managed to navigate these waters in a way that brings a cheaper product to the people so that they can spread hash rate around the globe, get mining into the hands of anybody who wants it. And so those people, going back to the education front, is like, so those people who have that bidaxe, that miner, can start to understand why mining plays such a pivotal and key role in the development of Bitcoin. I mean, like when I got into mining, like I learned so much more about the Bitcoin network and Bitcoin in general.
Yes.
It was like a rocket ship, putting 10 boosters on the back of your rocket ship and being catapulted into a space at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's how mining felt for me. And what they're doing over there is giving that to anybody who wants to get into it at a very affordable price. And so the education part for me is so great. And I love what you were doing at the home mining pod, because you're having these conversations with people that they may not be the best at having conversations. They may not be the best at like explaining why they're doing what they're doing, but the way that you conversate with them, the way that you have these podcast rips, like you bring out the best in these guys. And I absolutely love that. I mean, as a fellow podcaster, I've been taking a lot of, like, I've been watching your show and I've been like, oh, like maybe like I should be more like that. And I know that, never compare yourself. Like comparison is the thief of joy or whatever. So I'm not trying to compare myself and say, oh, I need to be like 2Sats. But it's like, I think there's always a moment where we can learn something from another person. And I always have this like imposter mentality, like always, no matter what I'm doing, I always have this imposter mentality of like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, like I could do this so much better, oh, like that person is way better than me. And it takes a while for me to realize and just think like, no, like you are who you are, you come at things from your own perspective and you do it your own way, and that adds a special flavor, special sauce to the mix, and it's your own unique vibe. And so for you, like I watch you and I do take notes, I do like see things, but I love the way that you interact with your guests and you draw those stories out of them.
That means a lot, man. Thank you very much for saying that. And I think that you do an amazing job too. And I think that you should continue to just be yourself, because authenticity, it shines through, right? When you're genuinely interested in the conversation that you're having with the person that you're having it with about the things that you're passionate about, you just can't lose. And so, formulating these robotic interviews, scheduling people that you only think are going to get this huge amount of views or is going to go viral or something. The world has enough of that, man. And it sucks. It sucks. And yeah, it's trash. And, we could do with a lot less of it. And so, I'm really honored and humble and grateful that you you learn from me, I learn from you. I love the way that you host our spaces that we do, the home mining spaces on Fridays on X. I think that you do a brilliant job of curating that and directing that. And yeah, I agree with you. It's not about comparison, but it's hard not to be when we have imposter syndrome. I think I suffer from that, throughout life as well. But just leaning into just being who you are and not trying to put on anything is very helpful for helping kind of mitigate that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so appreciate you on that.
Yeah.
And
No.
I do agree. Matt and Hunter, I want to go back to them quick before we move on. Like,
Yeah.
if you're hating on Matt and Hunter and Solo Satoshi, you're hating on the wrong guys. They are genuinely doing this for the right reasons. I know this from sussing them out, from like running them through my own personal bullshit detector, my
Mhm.
own filter. They're great human beings. And let's not forget that they were doing this before anybody else wanted to. Now it's popular to be a BitX seller, but when they got into the game, they were very early on, and everybody laughed and said, "Oh, what is this BitX thing? And what is this home mining crap?" So there's a lot of skepticism, and they believed in the BitX movement. They believed in Scott. They aligned themselves, and they put in. I mean, these guys don't sleep, dude.
Seriously, they literally do not sleep. I mean, probably, I bet you Matt and Hunter together get like 5 hours of sleep a night together.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. And yeah, like they really don't. Their customer service is top class. You send them an email, someone's getting back to you within like 24 hours at the latest. I've seen Matt go on calls with people, like a video call to help them troubleshoot an issue at like 2 a.m, like midnight. Like, it's incredible the amount of dedication. Whereas most people sell you a BitX and maybe they do sell it to you $5 or $10 cheaper, but then it's okay, you're on your own. You need a return, you don't get an answer, you need education, too bad, use Google. That is not what you're getting with these guys. So I'm very grateful to be aligned with them. I will stick my neck out for them any day because they are genuinely good human beings, let alone like entrepreneurs and business people. So a lot of love for Matt, Hunter, and Kels, and the team at Solo Satoshi. They're doing things for the right reason. And I think you're only going to see more and more people get into BitX and reselling for the wrong reasons as time goes on, because they think they can make a buck because it's popular. But these guys were doing it because they believed in Bitcoin, and then they believed in Scott and open source development and all the movement, right? And so I think there's a real fundamental difference between a company like that and a company that's getting into it. Not that you can't get into it later and have good intention, but I think, like with all things, it gets diluted and you get more snakes coming out of the grass that just want to, get involved and make a quick buck. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and I know you know this, but the audience may not know this, but every purchase that you make on Solo Satoshi, they put 10% towards Open Source Miners United, which is the open source Discord group community that helps to build and fund and develop these projects. So, this idea um, of donating to open source development and helping us get these projects built, like that's literally pivotal to Solo Satoshi's business model. And not a lot of places are doing that, and they're 100% open about the funds that are sent to Open Source Miners United. So when you might not donate yourself, but when you go out and purchase from Solo Satoshi, you are secondhand donating to open source projects. And that to me is huge. It's pivotal. It's so important to donate to the people who are spending their time, their energy, and sometimes their money too, to build these projects that we see as so important to our daily lives as Bitcoiners.
Yeah, they don't have to do that. They
No.
definitely don't have to do that. And a lot of people in the reselling space don't do that. And that's their prerogative. They don't have to, as we just said. But look at the incentives. Look at where the incentives are aligned and where they point. And if you're in this for the ethos of Bitcoin. And if you're in the home mining space for that, right, for being a hash punk, for being a cypherpunk, for being a Bitcoiner, for decentralization, for open source, you want to be aligned with a company that's, you know, putting their money where their mouth is. And 10% is no joke. Any percentage is no joke. It's fundamental to helping drive development forward. And we're on the cusp of a lot of great innovation too, right? So the more funding that the 256 Foundation, the OSMU get, the better, because we're going to see insane development by the people involved in those foundations and the discords and just the open source mining movement. So it's really critical. Like, look at the companies that you're supporting. Are they there for themselves, or are they there for you through the initiatives that they're involved in?
Yeah, and to your point about OSMU and 256 Foundation, the more funding that we can get these companies, that we can get these foundations, the more developments that are happening. Because, you know, if you think about, okay, so 6 months ago, 256 Foundation didn't have any money to give to anyone. They were bootstrapping their foundation, trying to get donations so that they could start the process to build, what is it, the open source control board. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's the name's escaping me right now. But anyways, they didn't have any money. They didn't have any money. And so what they did is they started the open hash, or not, maybe it's not open hash, but where miners were sending them hash rate.
Telehash.
The telehash. Thank you. So they did the telehash, and they found a block. And that literally, that gave them so much runway to start being able to fund certain projects. The longer their runway is, the more projects that they can develop. And now you've got Schnitzel and others working on these really, really incredible projects and tools that are going to open up so many doors for us, the users of those things. And I think that that's pretty incredible too. You know, when you think about Bitmain, when you think about Canaan and, you know, all these other mining manufacturers, they only care about you, the end user, when you have like huge amounts of money to throw at them. Like, they don't care about you when you're buying onesies and twosies. They don't care. And they've never cared about the home guy. They've never cared about the small miners. The 256 Foundation, OSMU, like, they care about us on a deep level. They want us as the home little plebs to survive, to thrive, and to grow our own hash rate in so many different ways. And that's one of the reasons why I fully support them. It's also one of the reasons why I'm deep into the heat punk space and what Tyler Stevens is doing with the group over there. I think it's incredible being able to give somebody the ability to make their own money, generate heat, and build businesses off of the back of that heat that is generated. I think that's insane. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Shout out to the 256 Foundation and the Space Denver and all of the great people that both you and I have had the pleasure and honor of speaking with one-on-one, interviewing them, getting their messages out there. You know, I'm so stoked for the Ember One. I'm so stoked for the open source control board and Hydra Pool and Hash Pool, all of these great pleb projects that are getting funded. They're getting grants. The Hash Pool by VNPRC, my friend Evan, he got a grant from the Human Rights Foundation recently to continue his work on Hash Pool, and it's so well deserved. These are the things that are going to fundamentally change our lives as home miners, right? You're not going to be beholden to these mining conglomerates as much anymore. You're going to have freedom and flexibility and optionality because of what the everyday user is building, and they're being funded to push that innovation. So I'm excited. I'm incredibly bullish on the next 5 years, 10 years of the home mining space. I think you and I are going to have no shortage of great people, devs, tinkerers, engineers, whatever, thinkers to interview on our respective podcasts. And it's going to be amazing to look back in 5 years and just have this huge catalog, because we're kind of early, right? Like, we're very early in the home mining space. Like, you can't even get like 1 or 2 chips, right? And now we're talking about the future being a lot more flexible in terms of being able to acquire some of these things, because as you said, Bitmain doesn't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about the heat punks. They don't give a shit. It's about their end line, like bottom dollar, right? And that's selling to the centralized mining conglomerates, right? That's these big mining operations, not you and I heating our house, right? So I think as that shifts and as that changes, which we started to see some news the other day about some chips now being able to be bought in bulk in smaller amounts, open, to anybody. I think that's going to really change the rate of innovation. And when that changes, it's game on. And it's going to be very exciting. So I'm really excited to look back on our catalog of interviews from now, the early days, 5 years from now, let's say in the next bull market, where we're like, dude, you remember when we were talking about these things in concept, like these ideas that might change the world? And then we're living in a world 5 years from now where we're using that technology to mine at home and to, heat at home and all these other things that we're talking about now.
I've gotten to have some incredible conversations with people doing really world changing, not just economic changing, but world changing products, world changing things that are happening. And I think that this is incredible. To your point on the innovation and how Bitcoin or Bitmain doesn't care about us, is like, as heat punks, I know that you're not super invested in the heat punk space, but like, as heat punks, what we're waiting for is for the ability to boil water, to make steam. Because when you can create steam, you can spin a turbine, which takes a certain amount of that energy that's expended to create the steam and turns it back into a virtuous cycle. You know what I mean? You can recoup like 10% of the energy expended to create that steam. But right now we can't boil water, and that's because we can't get chip thresholds that thresholds that high. And that's because Bitmain and these ASIC chip manufacturers, they don't care about heat threshold. They care about efficiency. And the more efficient you get your chips, the more traces that you have, the smaller the distance between the traces, which means that the hotter the chip gets, the more there is like, I can't remember what the term is called, but it's like leak. You get energy bouncing from trace to trace, and then it degrades the chip over time. So when we can start, through Open Source Miners United, through the 256 Foundation, through the other non totally spacing on the name. I am messed up today. Anyways, these other foundations, what they can allow us to do is develop these chips that don't focus on efficiency so much as like actual temperature threshold. And when we can focus on temperature threshold, we can do a lot more. And once you can boil water, I mean, it opens up the industrial processes to the 9th degree. And that allows us as a human race to start doing things that better us as humanity, that better individuals and businesses, and generate more security for the Bitcoin network overall. And I think that is fundamentally what we're driving to. We're going towards this world where people have the ability to protect themselves, secure their money in the strongest way, shape, or possible. But when you tie in like these projects, it makes a huge difference. One of the projects, going back to like the way that I started that diatribe, is, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is a company that is taking tires and like through this pyrolysis process, turning the tires into a mixture of, they're separating the three contents. They're pulling the metal shards out of the tires. They're taking the rubber, they're turning it into liquidized rubber, and they're pulling the gas, the diesel propane gas from the tires, and they're using that mixture to mine Bitcoin. So not only are they recycling tires by selling that liquidized rubber back to, rubber plants, they're recycling tires that are already filling up landfills and filling up sidewalks and, driveway, like whatever, but they're also generating Bitcoin with the electricity that they're creating from the gas. Take Bitcoin out of this scenario completely. You know, instead of mining Bitcoin with the electricity, they're generating power. Okay, go to a place like the Congo, okay, a place that doesn't have infrastructure to separate and deal with trash. They actually take and they import our garbage to their country for a fee. So the garbage is literally piling up in their country and nobody's incentivized to clean it up. And they also don't have power generation plants because they're a small nation. So what happens when you can generate electricity through the process of cleaning up plastics and rubber, providing jobs to the people, and those jobs create clean streets for the people to live in?
Just a win all around. Like
Yeah.
even if you take out the economic incentive of mining Bitcoin with it,
Yeah.
it's still just a bullish thing to do for the betterment of the world. I agree with you, dude. I'm so bullish on the heat punk movement. It's unbelievable. Obviously living in a place that gets rain maybe once a year,
Yeah, it's different.
and it's like 40 degrees every day. Laying out in my hammock, like I don't have the same need as I did when I was living back in Canada, which, it would be extremely useful. 6-7 months out of the year it's cold, so I don't have the same need for it, but my appreciation for it is extremely deep. And I kind of liken what you were saying to like of being able to boil water. Like once that happens through Bitcoin mining or things like that, it's kind of like the discovery of fire all over again for
Yeah.
humanity. It's like, oh shit. It's like one of those moments that people are going to look back on, 100 years from now or something and go, that was one of the sparks, one of the keys that turned, that unlocked this new world for us, right? And Bitcoin mining in general, like to your point earlier, the more that you've done podcasts and had these conversations, the more you've come to appreciate Bitcoin. 100%, brother. Like
Yeah.
I appreciate my Bitcoin before this, but now when I have these conversations with all these brilliant people and I learn more about mining and I learn more about the engineering, the physics, the energy reuse, all the engineering, man, I appreciate my sats infinitely more, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's not even like just infinitely more. I don't, again, I'm so detached from the monetary value of it at this point. I'm like, this thing, these units of account is just reshaping value in the world, is reshaping energy, it's reshaping the way we see and think about what's possible. So I agree. I think in 100 years from now, we're going to look back at what people are doing in the mining movement and in the heat punk movement, home mining, as like, oh, that was one of those pivotal things, those pivotal discoveries where we took the abundant energy on Earth and repurposed it, and we didn't let it go to waste, and we mined the hardest asset known to humanity at this point.
Yeah.
Wow, what a moment.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got the spark inside of that mushroom that the Neanderthals had. We're carrying it around and we're nursing it right now, and we're blowing on it and making sure it stays lit. And there's going to come a point where that thing just sparks up and the world will never be the same again.
Yeah, I have to say, all of the stuff that is happening, all of the crazy shit in this world that can really bring someone down, like all of that aside, we live in probably one of the most exciting times to be alive, because we're standing on this precipice. To your point, we're on this precipice of world-changing events. Are you familiar with the Kardashev scale?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on the precipice of becoming a type 1 civilization because of Bitcoin, because of all these individual people, these individual units in the market incentivized to do something that's better for them, which just so happens to be securing and procuring Bitcoin. That fundamentally, at the end of the day, like that, it's boiled down to that. But that has cascading effects that will take us 100, 200, 1,000 years from now. Humanity is going to look so much different than we are today. I mean, you think back to like 1900, 125 years ago, the world looked so different, but people are the same. Like, we are the same people we have always been. Because of Bitcoin, because of mining, because of these phase shifts in technology, unit economics, and money, engineering, all of it, human beings are going to be fundamentally different creatures than we are today. And I think that that has huge implications for how we today, as the forebearers of that civilization, how do we carry on our lives? How do we carry ourselves? How do we put ourselves into the world, and it's interesting. And I think about these thoughts all the time. Like, these are the thoughts that run through my head, is how do I show up in the world? Because I intend on being the picture on the mantelpiece when my family goes, who was the one who changed our lives for the better? It's like, oh, that was our grandpa Trevor. That
Oh
was great
yeah.
great grandpa.
Yeah, we're changing the inputs, and I think that's going to translate to the output being changed and over time, right? And reshaping the way that people experience this world. And we're definitely standing in pivotal times. And I agree with everything you said there. I just had a great interview with Murph's Life. I don't know if you know Murph's Life, but
No.
he runs a Bitcoin mountain in El Salvador,
Okay.
and he's a massive, massive social media guy, like 8 million followers between his TikTok and his Instagram. He was personally invited to the country by Bukele, and what he's doing is real proof of work. And I'm very inspired by the conversation I had with him. Um, I was really taken back. Like, I had this interview prepared and like this like direction that I wanted to take things, and like he just started ripping and ranting, and I had to like I was emotionally like leveled. Like, I was like, man, this is somebody that's on a real mission. Like, I know he's on a mission. I know what he does. I know his deal. But then to like just engage and have the conversation, I was like, wow. And he really reframed Bitcoin in some of the ways that you and I are talking about it right now, where it's like, what, how are you showing up now, and what are you doing with your time and your energy and your Bitcoin to actually help make a better tomorrow? And he's doing a Bitcoin retirement fund. He's employing local workers, and they're reforesting the area. And he's putting Bitcoin in cold storage for these people, so that in 4 to 5 years they can access this. He's building Airbnb homes on rental units onto the homes that he builds for the workers, and so that they actually have a means for generating revenue. Maybe they were making $5 to $10 a day. Now they're able to make $100 a night if they rent out this Airbnb. Like, but he's teaching them to fish,
Yeah.
and Bitcoin does that, man. It does that. It's so not about the dollar amount anymore. It's just about like, what can you do to show up, and like you said, like, we're at such a defining moment in time, it feels like. And I'm sure people 100 years ago felt that way too, but we really are. We have the technology, we have the knowledge, we have the know-how. We just need to have the love and the care and the attention and the means to direct it all. And I feel like maybe this is really abstract, but Bitcoin ties all that good stuff together and gives us what we need to be able to do that. So it was
Well,
a bit ranty, but
no,
that's how I feel.
I loved what you did with that, because look, it doesn't matter what problems you see in the world. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, it matters to you, but there are so many issues in this world. And when we are constantly at each other's throats, just yelling and screaming and arguing over X and TikTok and Facebook or whatever it is, we're never going to find common ground. Okay. You're never going to get your point across and help someone understand your perspective if you are screaming and yelling at them. But when you can have a compassionate, honest, and authentic conversation with someone based around your perspective versus their perspective, you start to gain common ground and you start to build something together. Instead of building walls, you're building like cities, you're building economies like within two people. And that right there is like, look, I've never been one for politics. I have my political leanings, I have my views, but in my town of 11,000 people, it's very left leaning. But I'm not left leaning. I'm more conservative, more on the right side of things. But that doesn't mean that like I have to denigrate or belittle or, be condescending towards these people. Like, I find common ground. I don't talk about certain topics when I know that it's going to cause, strife and anger and resentment. And I just, try to find ways to incite these little bits of Bitcoin and money and things into conversations from a perspective of like, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm trying to show you why I believe what I believe, and then show me why you believe what you believe, and maybe we can find something that meets in the middle.
I think as a species, we've been on each other's throats forever, right? And we've not worked it out in any meaningful way, right? Like that's why you still have religious wars, you have political strife and problems. All of that shit is stupid. Like it
To
really
say the
is.
least.
Yeah, to say the least. I'm putting it as soft as I can. It really is just so sad because, like I said before, we have the know-how and the means to do better. And what I learned from speaking with Aaron Murphy, Murph's Life, is that if you just use Bitcoin as a tool and you talk to other people that are interested in this stuff and you say, where is there a problem and what can I do about it? Things change. Things really change. You can change a small community, a country, and your own family. It starts there, and it ripples out, right? So we're also concerned with about like being right or yelling the loudest or whatever, and it's like that's also stupid and frivolous. Like, why do we have this constant need for contention with each other as a species? Like, I mean, there's big problems out there. There's poverty, there's homelessness, there's lack of food, there's all these different things, right? Like we should be able to fix all of that. And I think Bitcoin at its very core provides the necessary tool to do that. It's going to take time for the world to adopt that, but we're already seeing the the huge impact that it's having in places like Africa, which Africa should have been a global superpower with the amount of resources and the amount of creativity and ingenuity that they have over there, but they've been corrupted and suppressed. And I've interviewed people on this show before from in Kenya, living in Kenya now, people that are doing grassroots Bitcoin movements and education and circular economies. It is working. It is giving them freedom and sovereignty. And so, to kind of put a bow on all of that, man, it's like we have the tools now. We have to find a way to say, what are the problems facing us? Do we need fruit trees in public places so everybody can just pick up an orange and eat it if they're hungry? Yes, we do. Cool. We do need it. Why are you the one not planting it?
Yeah.
Right. It's great to, it's not good, I should say, for us to sit there and whine and complain about the way that the world should be when we have the means to fix it. That's what I learned from that conversation. It's like identify the needs, find a solution, and do something about it. It doesn't do any good to say, well, there's a problem here and there's a problem there. Somebody should fix that. Somebody should do something about that. If you see it as a problem, find the others that do. Collectively put your means together, whether it's your Bitcoin, your fiat, your technical skills, whatever, and do something about it.
I love that you took it down this way, because everything you're talking about is tied up in one phrase: be the change. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And it's interesting that be the change is BTC. Bitcoin literally has the letters BTC for its ticker symbol, or whatever you want to call it. When people think about it, it's BTC. It's be the change. Like, be the change that you want to see in the world. And it's funny, all of that is literally why I named my construction company BTC Construction.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like, because I see the way that things are done and I don't like the way that things are done, and I want to change it. I want to do something different. The only way to do that is to build my own company, do it the way that I think is right, and be the change that I want to see in the world. And it just so happens that I'm a Bitcoiner, and BTC means a whole hell of a lot more to me than just be the change. And so that is a huge, huge, completely unnoticed aspect of what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is the fuel. You know what I mean? Bitcoin is it's not the spark, it's the fuel that is igniting the fire, that is lighting us all up and making us want to be better human beings who provide better services and better resources to the world. And to your earlier point about Africa, I have said this so many times. I believe 50 years from now, because of things like gridless, because of all these other huge, huge projects that are going on in Africa, I truly believe that North America and other first world nations, first world continents, are going to be at an extreme disadvantage to the people and to the projects and the things that are built out of Africa. Okay. We, for the last 100 years, we've built our infrastructure. We've had to go through different iterations of that infrastructure, telephone wires and phone lines to wireless communication, the way that we transact goods and services, everything, everything from the bottom up. Africa is going to skip all of that. They're going to take every bit of the good things that we've built. They're going to take those. They're going to discount all the rest of it. And they're going to build a much better civilization, society, economy, and a better continent than we could even imagine. And I truly believe that, 50 years from now, we're going to see Africa and different nations within Africa rival that of the United States.
Yes, I fundamentally agree, because I think we think we're in this privileged position right now and that the world's never going to change. But I agree, and I really believe there's going to be a pole flip, if you will, a complete reversal of power in the world. It may first flow to terrible communist countries or dictatorships or things like that, but eventually, if these freedom tools like the resistance money, like Bitcoin, and the spirit that's involved in all of that prevails, which, like, I think it will, like you think it will, Africa is going to win. It's going to win, and there's just a huge amount of suppression there and brilliance that's there. It's boiling beneath the surface. It's just waiting to be unleashed in the world, and Bitcoin is the tool that's going to help that happen. Maybe not the only tool. I don't want to be too confident and too like obnoxious, but it is one of the tools, because money is like the most important thing. Like, it is as bad as it is there because of the corruption of the people that at the top that are taking the money and devaluing the native currencies and on, right? It's a deep rabbit hole, but that at its root, that is the fundamental problem, right? And we face similar problems in first world countries, but it's tenfold, it's 100-fold in those countries where there aren't any checks and balances. So we think we're living this privileged first world status right now, but I do definitely think that we're going to find out the hard way when things shift in any number of years, 20, 30, 50 years.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a good note to wrap it up on, man. Like, we've been going for a while now, and as I said in the very beginning, off camera or not recording, is like, I always do these podcasts, especially the good ones. I always come in with like a way that I want to do it. Like, I've got all these questions, I want to see what happens, and then it just goes completely left field and goes a different way. But I love it. I love talking with you. I love our spaces that we're doing and the conversations that we've been having, and just trying the fact that we're just both out here being our authentic selves, trying to educate the masses and, just lend a hand to people who need it.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure having met you and getting to know you and just chopping it up. I really enjoy all of our conversations, and it's just good to meet people that are willing to say yes to trying things, and that's what we have with our spaces that we are hosting. And it's great to see people come out to those, and they're so excited. They really are. They're so excited that somebody said, "Hey, there's a need for this." Again, like what we were just talking about, right? There's a a gap, there's a need, and we filled it. And we said, hey, we're going to start this thing up. And people love it, man. People come up, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. What about you? What are you doing? What did you learn?
The
They're
guy who's
excited.
building a Bitcoin mining farm with bit axes, like that like what? You know
That
what I
was
mean?
wild.
Like,
And
what are you doing?
you never would have known about that because
No.
I don't, he's a small account. He's not tweeting out pictures of it or anything like that. I hope he follows up in a future spaces because I'd love to see the pictures. But yeah, dude, I was sitting there like, what? Like somebody's doing
Exactly.
this, right? So, people building out all sorts of crazy heat punk, heat reuse things. It's just great, man. So, salute to you for being open-minded to just starting something and seeing where it goes. I think we're doing a great thing with that, and it's always a pleasure to connect and talk.
Absolutely. So, on my podcast, I end off the show by asking everyone the same question. And so it'll be the same for you. 2Sats, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Well, I think we covered that in the last hour and a half for sure. It's going to be hard to distill it down into a sentence, but let me try. I think Bitcoin to me means freedom, sovereignty, resistance to tyranny and control. And I think that it means hope for a better tomorrow and a better future for our lives and the future generations, that we're all able to live a life of happiness and joy, and to be in the moment and not feel like it's constantly having our time be devalued. Everybody should be free to do what they want in this life, and by that I mean to produce value in the way that's meaningful to them. And I'm blessed to be able to do that, and I know you are as well with your work and with your podcasting. And so I want that for everybody, for all my fellow humans, just to have the ability to show up in the world the way that you want and the way that's meaningful to you. And so I think Bitcoin gives us the ability to do that.
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Thank you so much. I feel blessed to be able to be in this position and have friends like you and have these conversations. It means a lot to me. And I've learned a lot through my conversations, just, meeting people, boots on the ground, people who are doing incredible things and moving our culture forward. So I'm blessed to be here, man. I can't put it any more concisely than that.
Do you have one goal or change or like a target that you're aiming at this year, whether it's content creation, whether it's with mining, whether it's with something in real life, getting boots on the ground, going to more conferences? What's the one thing this year that you're really hoping to double down on or venture into?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin per se. It has everything to do with creating value in the world. Um, I started my own construction company because I saw a need for a better contractor in my small town, and so I really want to double down on what I'm doing, building my construction company. I really want to help people realize that contractors are not bad. Like, we're out there trying to help people. I've always wanted to help people in a way that, I'm suited for it, and I'm halfway decent at, constructing things. So that's really my goal. And I would love to get a client to pay me in Bitcoin.
That was my next question. Are you going to accept sats for
I
for
do
for labor?
I do accept sats for labor, but nobody's paid me in sats yet. But on every single one of my bids, when it in my little clause that says, forms of payment, I've always got that little Bitcoin spot there.
Love it. I love
So
it.
we'll see what
Well,
happens.
you and I will celebrate when you text me the first time that you get paid in sats. It's a glorious moment.
Believe it.
I'm looking forward to that happening for you, brother. And yeah, dude, thanks for your time, your passion, your energy, sharing transparently, your journey with everybody, with me, and on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll stay in touch, and then we'll see you tomorrow for our next run of the home mining space.
You know it.
All right. Later, guys. All right, you guys. What did you think of that? what did you think of this second collaboration episode? The first one with My2Sats. I'm definitely going to be bringing him on to have another another conversation about Bitcoin and mining. We love to talk about this stuff, me and him. You know, we've become fast friends over the last couple months, just having these conversations on and off recording. We've had a couple of spaces as well that have been, they've been perceived pretty well from the community, and I think that that's a lot of fun. But it's cool to just, get a little bit of background and just bounce ideas off of each other, have these conversations. 2Sats is an awesome dude who's really here for the fundamentals and the ethics and ethos of Bitcoin. And that's one of the reasons why I love the guy. So definitely reach out to 2Sats if you have any questions for him. You want to find out more about what he's got going on the My2Sats pod or the home Bitcoin or the home mining channel. Definitely reach out. I will put all of the links in the show notes as well. And one thing I just would like to throw out there again is, if you guys enjoy these episodes, if you enjoy these collaborations, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, rate and review it. It really does help in the algos. It helps me get the podcast out there. And that, what I just want to do is help everyone understand that Bitcoin and mining is for anyone and everyone who wants to get into it. No matter if you want to mine at home with a BitAxe or with a heat reuse opportunity, or you want to dive further down the rabbit hole and you want to build out a, half a megawatt to a megawatt or even further, Bitcoin mining can be for you. And we're here to help spread that message. So if you like this, please definitely share with your friends and leave a like, comment, or review. So with that, guys, I am going to take off. I appreciate all of you for sticking to the end and watching this with me. The next episode that I have for you guys is a fun one. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be podcasting with Nick Moran. And we're going to be talking about mining in space. So stay tuned. Looking forward to that one. Until next time, peace out, guys.